It says we're live, so I guess we are. And we're about to tackle the top 3 most asked questions at Operation Yellow Tape. So hang on and join us, and let's do this. What is up, everybody? What's going on? Woo! Oh, people coming in hot already. I love it. I love it. It's going to get a little bit out of hand tonight, so I may not be able to see all of the messages once I bring on Jen. Big Axe in the house. My man Riley in the house. What's going on? What is going on? Doing good, brother. How are you? How are you? 757? I was in the 757 a couple days ago. Yes. Hey, tonight's going to be a good one. If you can't hang on for the whole one, I understand it. I'm going to have Jen Meyer on, and we're going to talk about hypervigilance. We're going to talk about grief, and we're going to talk about seasonal affective disorder. So, excited about that. However, I usually don't post these at all. It is what it is, but I'm going to post this one. So if you can't hang on, Susie Bird just rolled in. If you can't, man, people coming in so quick. If you can't hang on the whole time, I understand. Roll out. I am shadow banned a little bit, so it's all good. But I'm going to post this one, and that's when we get to 800 and 900 views, and we really get that reach going and have the opportunity to make a difference in people's lives. How's everybody doing tonight? What's going on? I got Susie Bird on. I got 757 in the house. I got, Jen has already logged in. That's good. That's good. We've got Grizz973. I apologize. I just got back from the gym, and my eyes and my contacts are jacked up. We got Combat in the house. We've got Chuck Your Ego in the house. I just got a picture of little man with some boxing gloves on, about to knock somebody out. So I know who to call if I need somebody punched right here. That's the button. Right there is the button, if you're ever wondering, to make somebody see the stars. So again, if you can't hang on the whole night, I'm going to repost this video, but Jen's going to come with some amazing information. I'm looking forward to it. And I think that might be her waiting in the wind. It is not, oh no. Please tell me I'm not shadow banned to where I can't have people join. I told her 5:30, so. What is up, everybody? Coming in hot. Goodness gracious. I can't even keep up. I can't keep up. That's a good thing. Not be able to keep up. Got a chief in the house for sure. Got leadership rocking the house. Diamond and I are listening to you. Good. Tell Diamond that I said hello. I just got back from the gym, and then me and Johnny went for a quick walk. So excited about that. What's going on, folks? Everybody up to anything? What's going on tonight? Anything good? We got to keep this about 35 minutes, so I need somebody to help me be the clock. Maybe that can be you, Susie Bird. You know how I get long-winded. So if anybody could help me watch the clock. Okay, I believe. Let's see what happens. It freezes for a minute. I tried to join. She's trying to join. And she's successful in joining.
Hey, everybody.
What is up?
Not much. How are you all doing?
I'm doing good. Good. How are you doing?
Doing great. So excited to be on this. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I'm excited too. I'm so excited I made some notes. I don't usually do that. So,
me too.
Did you? Good.
My Operation Yellow Tape pen.
Yes. Yes. I love it. I love it. Every client you see gets to see that pen. It's beautiful.
Yep,
beautiful.
Exactly.
So, folks, again, real quick, I got a lot of people coming in right now, man. I usually do not post my lives to my feed. Tonight, I am. So, if you can't hang on the whole time, I understand it. Jump off and then watch it later tonight or tomorrow, whenever you want. We're going to try to go. Jen, help me out here. I get long-winded about 35 minutes. So, she's going to be going. If I get to talking too much, she's going to be saying, cut it, because she has somewhere to go. And I'm kind of shadow banned. For those who don't know, I'm surprised I was able to come up tonight, so I'm excited. But Jen, let's get right into it. I appreciate you being on here tonight. Again, for folks who are just joining these questions tonight, we're going to just do an awareness level. This is not anything that you're going to leave here completely up to date on everything. This is some awareness type stuff. But these are the top 3. I started this business in 2021. I say business, I mean coaching, inspirational speaking, telling my story. These are the top 3 questions that I seem to get every single month, no matter what. So no matter what, I get these questions. Again, I'm going to post this to my page, so we probably won't be able to see your comments, because I can't even see Jen right now. So many people are on here with their names. I can't even see her at the moment, so that'll go in a minute. So if we do not get to your question, once I post this on my page, answer the questions. I'm going to make her a collaborator, and it's going to show up on her page as well, and we'll answer those questions throughout the next couple of days. But you make a comment on there, we'll answer them. So Jen, let's get started. Help me keep the clock, please.
Okay.
Anybody who knows me knows I'm long-winded. I can talk for hours, but thank you again. And real quick, a little bit about you, who you are, what you do, and yeah, who are you?
Yes. So my name is Jennifer Meyer. I'm a licensed professional counselor in private practice in Fort Collins, Colorado. I've been in private practice for about 10 years now. Feel lucky enough that I found what I'd consider almost my dream job. I think a lot of you listening are first responders, so I think you'll understand when I say this. It's really meaningful work and also really hard. So some of the things I'm going to be talking about tonight are things that I use also, just because, you know, we all are exposed to trauma on some level, and we need tools to be able to deal with that, to be able to keep showing up for the people we love, you know, and in the work we do.
I love it. Yeah, I do have, with Operation Yellow Tape in general, I do have a really strong first responder following, but even more so, even more importantly, are the friends and family of us. The folks who have to live with us, the folks who have to deal with some of these 3 questions we're going to get into. So out of the 800-900 people who will watch this video in the next couple of days, many of them aren't first responders. So this is great information. So folks, get out your pens, get out your paper, take some notes, ask some questions if you want to. If we can see them, we'll go get at them. If not, we're going to post this, like I said before, and we'll answer them throughout the next couple of days. So Jen, I'm just going to get right into it if you're okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go. So in no particular order, ever since I've been doing this, I started doing this in about 2021. I went on Instagram, way down in my feed. I've only had 200 posts, but way down in my feed somewhere, something called Saturday Mental Health Minutes. And I started to talk about some of the things I was experiencing as a first responder, some of the things that I was hearing my colleagues talk about. And then I created an email. I started getting emails and emails and emails and emails and DMs and DMs and DMs. And these top 3 tonight were the ones that I went back this week or last week, because I knew I was going to get with her, and without a doubt, constantly. So number 1, no particular order. However, this is the one that my friends and my family and myself deal with the most. It's hypervigilance. So I have hypervigilance after almost 21 years in the fire service. So my question to you is, can you talk a little bit about hypervigilance, you know, what it is, some of the emotional symptoms, the behavioral symptoms, some of the physical symptoms, and then of course some interpersonal symptoms, and then just what do you professionally recommend?
Mm-hmm. Perfect. So think in general of hypervigilance as extreme awareness with maybe a little bit of paranoia. Okay. So we need these things to stay alive. So our nervous system gets activated when there's a threat present, and hypervigilance is just staying in that activated state in our nervous system for long periods of time, which makes us completely exhausted. It's putting cortisol into our bodies. It's stressful, makes it hard to sleep. We just stay really activated. So if you think about, I like to think about our brains. Our brains are wired for survival, not for happiness. So when it comes to keeping threats at bay, our brains are always working to identify threats. And so I think about it like a guard dog. Okay, so if we have a guard dog that's patrolling the backyard, trying to make sure that we don't have any intruders, if something happens that gets past the guard dog, it's an alert of the dog didn't go too far, didn't find the threat, and so now it's going to go even further. And so when it comes to threats, our brains generalize and start looking for anything that has to do with that pattern. So let's say we get into a collision with a red truck, okay? So next time we're out driving, not only are we going to have excess activation trigger when we're driving, anything red is going to add even more to that, even if it's not a truck, right? Our brains can't, they just generalize to try to keep out as many threats as possible, which is, these are things that we need. We especially need these if we're dealing with a really awful scene or dealing with trauma directly. We need that to stay safe. It's just, we need to be able to switch it off. And sometimes it's hard to. So one thing that I like to tell people to do when you're dealing with hypervigilance is when you, let's say that you're working and you're exposed to trauma, you need to be able to shift out of that. So you need the hypervigilance while you're there. And then this is even something I do in my work as a counselor. When I leave here, I have to shift out of it, not be in that on roll anymore. Sometimes I talk in my car and say things out loud about, boy, that was really tough to hear. That hurts my heart. That was really awful. I feel for that person. And I leave it between my building and in my car. Okay. And it helps kind of shift into it. And then when you get home, it's helpful to, you know, change clothes, do something that you're leaving your day there. You can listen to music, but I would take at least 20, 30 minutes once you get home to complete that shift in your brain. I'm safe now. Things are okay. Things are good. Okay. So think about when it comes to hypervigilance, it's really a type of, you can see it like anxiety. Everything in our nervous system is activated. So things like increased heart rate. Sometimes it's hard to, you know, it's hard to swallow. It's harder to breathe. Everything just feels, we are just super activated, like we've had 8 cups of coffee, which if you're using that energy to try to detect threats, if you're, you know, lively at work, things like that are going on, that's fine. But once you get home, it's really hard to shut that off and it's really uncomfortable, right? So those symptoms physically are all of the things that go along with anxiety. You know, can be hard to eat. You're just kind of switched on. Everything is fast, okay? So when you're feeling all of this, these things make you usually a little bit irritable. You might be a little bit overreactive, you know. And also sometimes when people are in that for a long period of time and then they come home, so they go from super on to crash and burn, irritable, checked out.
Yeah. And I think, you know, you and I talked this week. We've been talking a lot. It's exhausting.
Mm-hmm.
It is completely exhausting. And a lot of folks who reach out to Operation Yellow Tape, they're like, man, you know, I believe I'm suffering from hypervigilance and it is just exhausting. Do you feel exhausted? And I'm like, yeah, you just feel exhausted from it.
Mm-hmm.
So I know one thing that happens with me, and I think you've already touched on the interpersonal symptoms. I get a lot of that. Like my hypervigilance is better than it's ever been. One, because I'm taking steps to improve it. I'm surrounding myself with folks like you and Life Change Institute and Meridian Psychotherapy and putting some time into myself. But it makes me want to isolate.
Yeah.
I don't know if do you ever? I'm sure you do. Do some of your clients want to isolate from hypervigilance?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Absolutely. So think about something. So this is something I see when I work with police officers specifically, but if you're out in a crowded area, think about all of your senses are completely on. And when you're trained in your work to look for threats, it's really hard to turn that off because you can see everything in your surroundings as a potential threat. Okay. So sometimes I think we learn to see other people as a threat. There are noises, there's a lot going on. It's hard to keep track of what's going on. And just naturally in those settings, sometimes our nervous systems are just a little bit more activated anyway, right? So it's easier, I'm going to say easier in quotes. We start thinking it might be easier just to be alone because then I can be completely off, completely turned off. I don't need to worry about anything. I'm not worried about getting into an argument with my spouse, right? Things are completely under my control. But we have to watch that too, because then we end up just taking all of that on our own. And we kind of go into this dark hole and never talk about what we're feeling. And that's really tough too.
Yeah, and I think I was telling you, I I feel that you can bring hypervigilance as a first responder. I feel like you can bring this stuff home to your family. I
Oh,
I really do. My daughter's 18 years old, and of course, she and our family suffered a horrible life knockdown, like many families do. However, I think with the job I do and some of my symptoms, I like to use post-traumatic stress injury. I don't like the D.
mhm.
It bothers me for some reason. But my point to this is if my phone rings, and I told you that this week, if my phone rings and it's somebody out of the blue, like right now, I would look at my phone and go, oh my gosh, what's happened to my mom? What's happened to my dad? Why is my daughter calling? And my daughter has a little bit of that. She's told me before. And of course, she suffered trauma. But in your opinion, don't you think first responders can bring this home to their families, their wives, their husbands, their friends who aren't first responders?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
100%. Absolutely. I think it's more in the norm to bring it home. And it takes a lot of awareness to not bring it home. And so even outside of first responders, anybody who has experienced some sort of trauma where they, think about it like your life was going a certain way and then you experienced that trauma. And so everything associated with getting notified about my parent, something happened to somebody that I care about, absolutely you're going to have a reaction to that.
Yeah.
A lot of people, yeah.
Got some really good friends who are on here, and they were the caregivers for a loved one. And they were a caregiver to that person's illness. And I think, and I've stuck by this for a long time, I think being the caregiver of someone that you love who is dying is hard, and it is painful, and it develops hypervigilance in them as well. So I'm glad they're on here tonight, and taking some notes and thinking about it, because you know this month of December is hard anyway. So that's awesome. Yeah. So again, folks, we're going to move on to the next question. We're moving kind of quick, but again, when I post this thing, put your questions there, and you can reach out to me and DM me, and you can reach out to Jim. But once we post it, go ahead and put some questions. Anything you want to add before we move on?
I
Yes,
do.
please.
A couple of tips. So anytime something happens, whether you're a first responder or not, try to debrief it. I know when you're in the moment and it's like you guys are trained to be able to be super calm in those moments. So you might think it's not a big deal. This is just an everyday work thing. But there's another part of you that's going to come out. You need to be able to talk about these things. If you can debrief it that day, even if it's 2 minutes, peer support team, a buddy, a friend, somebody, or even, a spouse, a person, a friend, somebody that you care about. Hey, this day was really hard today. Or if it was a trauma, if you're not even a first responder, some sort of trauma, you need to be able to talk about it. Sometimes we tend to isolate, but it is so, so, so important to talk about it. And then one other thing I want to add about hypervigilance and anything anxiety related is we need to be able to tell our nervous system everything's okay. So there's there are a whole bunch of different ways that you can do this, but just the easiest way that I can think of right now, it's called 5 senses grounding. Basically, it's like, I used to use this with my kids if they would have a nightmare. And I think my daughter's on here right now, but it's basically you go through your mind, imagine yourself at a comforting place like a beach, and go from the top of your body to the bottom and just think, what do I see? What do I smell at this beach? Imagine that you're tasting something comforting. What do I hear? For example, I hear seabirds, and what do I feel on my skin? So I feel the sun, I feel, the breeze, and just imagine that and really try to sit in that and breathe slowly in a count of 4, hold it for a count of 4, breathe out for a count of 4, and then hold it again, and just keep continuing that. And it's like a forced reset of the activation in our nervous systems. And it's one of the fastest ways just to kind of stop with the overactivation part. Okay.
I really like that. So you said you're thinking about, what are you seeing? What are you smelling? What are you tasting? Uh,
Mm-hmm.
what are you hearing? And what are you feeling?
Mm-hmm.
I think awesome.
because then it kind of psychs your brain out to think that you're at that beach.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
there's an app called I think it's called the PTSD Coach. It's the PTSD Coach app, and there are some breathing exercises and what we call grounding exercises that just help bring you down. Okay, so if you feel this activation, go through some of those. It's free. Go through some of those and there's a thing called box breathing or square breathing. That's what I was just referring to.
Yeah. Okay.
It just helps you chill out. You can do that when you get home at the end of the day or at the end of a shift, even if you're, taking care of family members at the end of a shift, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm. I think they have one. Yeah. Talk to people, therapy. Obviously, I'm going to push therapy. So I think that's about all I can think of for that one. Exercise is huge. It clears out cortisol.
I've been saying for a very long time, and I get a lot of people that want to punch me in the face over this, but in my fire department, we're blessed. We get a physical every single year in your birthday month, and it's a stress test. It's blood work. It's testosterone levels, A1C. I personally think everyone should have, all 608 of us should have to go sit in front of a counselor for 30 minutes. If you don't say anything, you just sit in silence, I guess. But a chance of you bringing something up is probably pretty powerful. Mm-hmm. And I just feel it. I know it's probably an expense. I don't know how it works. I'm pushing forward. But I tell you, and you've talked to me, you know me, I was so against, and we'll get into that later, I was so against counseling at first, like you wouldn't believe. If you didn't wear this gear, if you didn't carry a weapon, if you didn't wear the turnout coat, there's no way I could talk to you. And I wasn't going to. Yeah. But I had that work for you for 7 years. Not real good.
Right.
Amazing stuff. I hope folks are taking notes. And again, I'm going to post this. So believe it or not, that is the number. I didn't got these in any kind of order, but that is the number one. It's neck and neck with the next one or the third one. But that is one of the biggest questions I get all year long is hypervigilance. Mm-hmm. And as a first responder, there's no way to get out of it. I just don't believe that you're going to be jumpy. You're going to have to find coping mechanisms of what you just talked about to deal with your hypervigilance, because we're going to move on real quick. But, I tell people all the time, if you work in an office and you have some kind of workplace violence happen, that may never happen again. So that may never happen in your office again. But as a first responder, if doing CPR, if seeing people hurt, if that bothers you, you're going to see that again and again and again. So you got to have healthy coping mechanisms. I know that Trish has mentioned exercise. That is a huge one. You've already talked about it. We can't work out enough. We can't sweat equity enough. But I can't stress to my first responders enough. I tell them, look, I understand seeing that deceased child has hurt you, but you got to find coping mechanisms or get out of this line of work, because it won't be the last time you see it. And that's why this is so important to me, this type of work, because a part of Operation Yellow Tape's mission is to bring quality resources, to the stage and to the forefront, forward facing, to help us out. So I love it. I'm
going to say one quick thing. I know you said you were chatty, and I know I'm being chatty, but our brains could never prepare for the things that happen, especially if you're seeing trauma every single day. So think about early on when you're working the job that you do, even me as a counselor, there are things that you could never possibly prepare for. So your brain learns to anticipate, and part of anticipating is we end up a little hypervigilant. So it's kind of part of it.
Yeah, we could do a whole episode on. There are things that I've seen that I never could imagine, that am I on a battlefield or am I on a side of a highway? So Anyway, awesome.
Okay.
Number 2. What do you think? Number 2. So I kind of hit this in episode 4 of my podcast, because I kept getting the seasonal affective disorder, the S.A.D. It's called S.A.D, of course. Of course, as you know, my phone goes to S.E.D, and you corrected me. It's S.A.D. But if you could, real quick, in the same type of format, just talk a little bit, because some folks on here have it. I know they're here. I see you. They after my podcast, they reached out and they're on this group here. So seasonal affective disorder, symptoms, causes, management.
Okay. All right. So first, I'm going to start just because of how my brain works. I'm going to start with why it happens. So seasonal affective disorder, think about it. Serotonin levels actually go down. Okay. And then our body clock gets a little screwy because we don't have as many hours of light. So the normal thing where we wake up with the sunshine and go to bed when the sun sets is completely out. It's just out. It doesn't happen anymore. So our bodies get a little funky, and when we can't sleep, that certainly doesn't make our mood better. Okay, so that's kind of what happens with seasonal affective disorder. Add in things like, at least for me, it's really hard to exercise. I can't go outside in the mornings before I go to work because it's dark. It kind of makes us hole up inside and get a little bit isolated. So one of the things that's important is to watch your thoughts about winter, about the darker months. Watch what you start thinking about it and not catastrophizing and thinking, oh, it's winter again. I'm not going to get out for another 3 months. This sucks. This is depressing, which I get it, but there are also countries like Norway, some specific areas where the light is really low. I think that at the max, there are times where they get 3 hours of indirect sunlight. And this is Tromsø, Norway, and they do not suffer from seasonal affective disorder like some other countries like us do. So it's worth considering how they think about it. They do a lot of things socially to come together, hot tub, do stuff when it's dark, share drinks together, all of those things it's actually supportive and they look forward to it. So keep those things in mind, but that doesn't mean that it's not a real thing that's really tough for people to deal with. Okay, so just think about, and this one is similar to grief, but the feeling is exhausted, low motivation, tired. Sometimes it's hard to sleep, but then you're really tired. It's kind of this mix when it comes to sleep. Lots of feelings like depression, right? It's a type of depression. So something that's really helpful for this, I'm going to say this again, exercise, get up and about. Okay. Yep. There are sun lamps, right? There are things that are made just for seasonal affective disorder. Do that, 30 minutes every morning. I have I'm trying to think of the name of it. Oh, I have an alarm clock called a Hatch, and there are all different types of these, but it wakes me up with light and it floods the whole bedroom with light. That works for me. It's helpful. It plays bird sounds. I mean, even if it just psychs me out for 5 minutes in the morning, it seems like it works a little bit. So consider something like that. Or when you sit and drink your morning coffee, sit there with a sun lamp next to you. Don't look right into it, but keep it right next to your face for 30 minutes. So that helps to know that you're not alone. Talking about this is helpful. Therapy is helpful. Medication can be helpful. There are a lot of different things. Exercise always. Sleep if you can. It's really helpful to be able to get into a good sleep routine. I know that's not always possible, but these are kind of the things that come up for this. And positive thoughts. That's important. Something I think about this, you guys are going to laugh at me and how old I am, but I don't know if you guys have seen Rocky IV. Remember when he's training in Russia and it's cold and I can't remember what all he's doing, but I try to think of myself in that way. Not that I'm anything like that. I'm not that tough, but imagine yourself when you get home, put the clothes on. I live in Colorado. Put the clothes on and go out and even just walk around the block. It's so helpful. It's hard. You're not going to want to do it, but if you do that every day, it really helps.
Yeah, when I was talking to you yesterday on the phone, my earbud in my ear, I was all bundled up. I was walking my 12-pound beast of a Chihuahua around the neighborhood, but it was cold as hell. But I bundled up and I went out and done it. Something else I tell people who reach out to me who aren't first responders. They work in offices and they have a cubicle by a window. I'm like, man, put your chair beside that window.
Yes.
Let that come in and get on your head. You know, move your desk around if you have to, because a lot of folks that that support OIT aren't first responders. They work in offices all day. Like, man, I can't get outside in the sun. Well, move your chair if you can. You know,
Mm-hmm.
every time somebody takes that every time somebody takes that cigarette break, take your ass outside and take yourself a walk around the building if you can. You know, most cigarette smokers get about 37 10-minute breaks a day. So when they get up, you get up.
There you go.
Drives me crazy. That's great information. That has been a big one that's been sent my way over the last couple of years, but I really didn't dig into it until my podcast. But that's great. I'm just taking some notes.
I'm loving all the comments, by the way.
Yeah, I'm unfortunately not seeing really any of them.
I just hit some of them, but thank you all for commenting.
Yeah, awesome. And again, for those of you who have just joined, if you can't stay the whole time, I am going to post this on my page. I don't usually do that because I just don't. But this is important information, and I'm making a decision that part of my mission is to provide quality resources and stuff for Operation Yellow Tape, and this is a quality resource. And people always ask me about that. You know, what can you do? Do I do EAP? Do I do this? So anyway, I'm going to post it. So again, once it posts, ask the questions there, and we'll hit them. Want to add before we track on?
I think that's about all I have for S.A.D.
Perfect. Now, and we're keeping this awareness level. I teach and I coach on an acronym called HELP that I developed. Health, Educate, Launch, and People. And tonight is the educate and the launch part. So when you get off here, if some of these things resonate with you, start looking some stuff up. Start educating yourself. Maybe talk to somebody who's in the house with you or somebody that you work with. So everyone always asks me, you know, in the fire service, could you have used another acronym other than HELP? Well, it was simply health and educate and launch, and then the people I kept around me that I needed to do to get myself off that 7-year X after what happened. So anyway, we move on to the next one. And this is really, I get this question in so many different ways. And unfortunately, first responder or not, everybody deals with grief. I mean, everybody, whether it is grieving of a loved one, whether it's grieving a lost job, whether it's grieving an animal that has passed, whether it's grieving yourself getting older, no matter what, grieving an injury, grieving is part of life. It's one of the major things that Jason Redman instilled in me in 2020. He was like, man, you have to decide to live greatly. You have to decide that you're still here breathing, and bad things happen to really good people. And it's up to you to be a victor, not a victim. So what are you going to choose? And it was so powerful when it hit me in the face, because I was a victim of grief. It was everybody else's fault. I was sad. I was angry with the big man upstairs, the man over here, or whatever you believe in. And I don't know, but I was mad about everything. So the number three is just grief. And you know, grief during the holidays. I've been getting questions like, hey man, can you share some tips with me on grieving through the holidays? I know there's several stages of grief. Which one is the worst? I mean, for me, it was acceptance, to be honest with you. The worst symptom of grief for me was depression and almost survivor's guilt. So for you, like you've done the past 2 questions, can you just talk about grief during the holidays, the symptoms you're going to feel, maybe touch on the stages a little bit, and again, some of your coping mechanisms that you suggest to your clients to deal with grief.
Sure, absolutely. So grief is hard on its own, but if you think about grief during the holidays, there's all this pressure during the holidays to be happy, right? It's all about, you know, Merry this and Merry Christmas. It's so exciting, and we get so buzzed up about it. And the reality is holidays are really, really hard for a lot of people. We don't talk about that. So there are a lot of factors that make holiday grief even harder. So we also get out of our schedules. We're either working when everybody else is home and getting together, which makes us feel like we're on the outside looking in, or sometimes we end up with, I get this a lot of times, people, I even felt this a little bit during Thanksgiving. 4 or 5 days off sounds amazing, and then it's too much time thinking, right? And so, especially if you've lost somebody, whether it's through death or divorce or whatever it is, usually we start thinking about that person during the holidays, because that's, you know, a lot of memories are connected to holidays. But also we have extra time or with other people. So something that I would suggest, if that's happening, is two things. Number one, before you're getting ready to go do something with people, give yourself kind of your own little chance to grieve and feel this, okay? Because you're probably you're gonna be feeling it and anticipating that you're gonna be feeling it that day, right? Especially something like Christmas Day, if that's what you celebrate, you know that you're gonna be feeling this. Give yourself half an hour, feel it, write something out, say something out loud to that person. You can say a prayer, light a candle, do something to just say, I'm thinking about you, I care about you, I miss you, okay? And then, so just so that you give yourself that chance to do that, because otherwise you're gonna feel pretty heavy all day and you're gonna probably feel on the verge of tears. So give yourself that time, okay? I always suggest to people when they're grieving, light a candle for a period of time until the candle is gone. Do it every night. Do it when you get home. Do something to just say, I'm thinking about you. And it's this one little ritual. You don't even have to say anything, but it just kind of keeps that person a little alive in that way. And talk about them, right? If you're at the Thanksgiving table or you're sitting with people that knew the person, even if they didn't, talk about that person. Man,
Yeah.
she was so lovely, right? Remember this part, and it just gives you that moment to kind of make that person alive again with you, and it's so special. Okay.
Yeah. I know I'm interrupting you, but early on in my grief process, people were afraid to ask me questions or to ask me something because they thought they were going to hurt me. And what I want people to understand is when you've lost somebody unexpected or expected, or you're dealing with something like that, you're not going to hurt me any worse than I'm already hurt. So the folks that pulled me aside and asked me questions actually helped me. The ones that sat in silence just staring at me because they thought they were going to hurt me if they bring up her name, they bring up his name, whatever I was going through at the time. That's not the case. People were afraid to talk to Carly. They were afraid to mention her mom to her at Christmas times. Well, this home, if you walk out there, there are pictures of her mom all over the walls, on the Christmas tree. Is it hard? Yeah, yeah, big time. But I found that to be so true. What you're saying right now, I found that to be so true with just talking about them. And then trying to what are your favorite parts of them, and be what that was. Were they fierce? Were they into PT? Did they like long walks, like the beach, the mountains? Be those things you love the most about them. So I'm so glad you said that, because we have some folks on here right now who are about to experience the holidays with someone who's gone, and it's tough. So I love that. So I think you've already hit it on a little bit, but those first and second holidays without those people, kind of rehash that a little bit. So I got some folks on here that I know have lost people, and these holidays are tough. Their first or second holidays without them. Rehash that real quick for us.
Yes. So whether you've lost a person to death or divorce, that first, I'm going to say definitely that first year, but especially that first and second holiday, I'm just going to be honest, it's going to suck. It just is so hard. It's just painful. And so anticipate that. I wouldn't spend a whole day just sitting alone. It's just, I don't know, it's just miserable. I remember going through, when I was going through divorce, I just remember I got my kids through a whole Christmas day. and I think showed up and made it special for them. And then when they went to bed, I was loading the dishwasher, and it's like I just can't contain it anymore, right? It's just hard. It just breaks your heart, and you can only do so much for so long. So my tips for that: know that it's going to be painful. Make sure that you have enough support. I really, really strongly tell people when I'm working with them, do not plan on being alone for that whole holiday. It's just miserable. Try to get support. Loneliness just adds to it. Okay. Those are a lot of big things. Being able to access your grief and know that it's temporary. It's not always going to be this awful. Somebody's commenting on the stages of grief, and yes, it is not linear. It's not like you go through those 5 stages of grief, in this nice order. It's messy. It's hard. It comes up unexpectedly. You're going to get a wave of grief. Something will trigger a big wave of grief. It could be days, weeks, months, years, right? So just anticipating that and knowing that you have support and all the things that I mentioned earlier, those are all things to pay attention to. And so I'll go through so just briefly, there are 5 stages of grief. And so denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And like I said, they're not linear, they're not clean, they're messy, they're hard. And were you the one that was saying which one do you think is hardest?
Yeah, I've had, for some reason, over the last 6 months, people, and I have to always tell folks, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a counselor, I'm not a therapist, just a guy who's done this job for 21 years. That's why I find people, the mission is to find quality resources, but they reach out to me saying, what is the hardest stage? Because I'm in them right now. Can I expect the worst one to number 3? And I'm so glad you mentioned that. They don't come in order, brother, sister. They don't come in order. They just come at you. So yes.
Right. Well, what's that?
I said, yeah, I'm getting that whole questioning of which one is the worst.
I have some thoughts about that. So if you think about denial is our brain's tool of saying, I'm not even going to acknowledge that this is real. So it's kind of protective in a way. It just doesn't allow you to start healing. So I would say that is not the hardest stage. And anger has a way of kind of giving us energy to deal with things. So it's not fun to be angry, but it also gives us at least energy to get out of bed, do what we need to do. Okay. Depression, no. Usually depression is the stage where suicidal thoughts happen the most often. It's really painful. It's just, I'd say depression is the hardest stage for a lot of people. Bargaining, I see this a lot when I work with people that are going through divorce and, just wanting to say, if only I had blank, this wouldn't have happened. If I'd been a better partner, if I had talked about this, all of these things, wanting to change it so desperately and knowing that we can't. So that's tough too, but I'd say depression, just we can get stuck in that for a chunk of time, and it feels hopeless. It feels like it's going to go on forever.
Yeah. And I don't want people, I want you to take away from this tonight that we don't compare griefs, we don't compare traumas. A lot of people keep all this built up because they tell themselves, well, I haven't been through this, so I can't talk about that. You've already mentioned it, Jen. You just got to start talking. And people compare traumas all the time. Like, well, he went through this and she went through that. No, from a divorce to losing somebody to going bankrupt and a loss of a job, it's all horrible stuff.
Yes.
And the point is, give somebody a chance to help you. Give somebody a chance to listen. It may not be a Jen with so many things behind that last name, but a person like me can put you in contact with a person like that. So don't fall into that. You can't talk about your situation just because of you don't feel like your trauma or your grief is worthy. I hear that a lot. I don't want to talk about it because talk about it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, please talk about it. Even like you said, even if it's not a counselor, just talk to a friend, talk to anybody. even things like, you know, kids moving out. We've talked about that one. When kids move out and go to school or do something out, you know, once they turn a certain age, that's grief also. There's so many griefs. It's grief, period. If it hurts to you, it's a loss, it's grief.
Yeah.
So don't judge it, talk about it. There's a lot of support. You can reach out to me directly, any of you, either one of us, right? That's what we're here for.
Yeah, I can tell you, my daughter just actually popped in, like you said, yours is on, and I'll be honest, I'm her going off to college. I'm doing good. I'm doing well, but it was tough on me. Now we're in the first semester, but I promise people, it was tough. The first couple of weeks was like, what do I do with myself? I'm not on the softball field. She's not a effing drag kick wall away. She's cities away from me, and I can tell you, it felt like it's stupid because I should be blessed that I'm able to see that, and a lot of parents don't make that. But man, you nailed it. It was like I was grieving up in here.
Oh yeah.
But she did her part, and she FaceTimed me, and we text each other. And I have to realize I'm transitioning from the father of a child to now I'm the father of a grown woman,
Yeah.
and that's hard. You know, people can say what they want. I know some dads are like, "Yeah, they're out of the house," you know. But for me, I'm now a father to a woman who can make her own decisions. And if she wants to go to Mexico, I've got nothing to say about it except no. And she's going to say yeah, and it's going to be what it is.
Yeah.
But it was really, really hard. And I'm thankful I had people in my life and a strong inner circle. And but yeah, that's another example of grieving. You know, nothing was really going on except my daughter was blessed enough to go off to college and get educated. She wants to do exactly what you're doing. So yeah, it was a former grief. That was good.
Let me add just a couple of things, Kenny, okay?
Please.
So I don't think I ever got to symptoms of grief. So these are interesting because in a lot of ways they're opposite of the activation that I was talking about earlier with hypervigilance. So that's where everything is on. So think about grief where everything is powered down, okay? So exhaustion, it's a lot of times insomnia, even though you're completely exhausted. The most frustrating thing, you're exhausted physically, emotionally, mentally from all of the grieving, but then you can't sleep. So it just adds misery to the whole situation. So that part's really tough. Something interesting about this that I never knew until I did a bunch of the divorce training is people that are grieving sigh a lot. It's kind of like letting out air. It's just a thing that happens. So sighing, it's tough to eat a lot of times. A lot of times people lose weight. I remember, I think I lost, I don't know, 15 pounds or something when I went through a divorce because all I could do was walk on the treadmill and go to work and just try to keep my mind off of it. So it's tough to eat. It's just kind of tough to do anything. And with grief, that makes it a little bit different from depression. You get waves of it. So something will happen that makes you miss this person and you just have a hole, right? It's like you can have a wave that lasts for hours or days or months. And so that's kind of a way to distinguish between grief and depression.
Wow. I tell you what, something I came up with a few months ago was for Upper Tape, we must become fierce in the early recognition of a mental health decline in those we love, live with, work with, and ourselves. And that sighing thing you just said, if you're hearing someone sigh a lot, hey, that might be your opportunity. I've never heard that before. That might be your opportunity to edge in and say, hey, is everything, you okay? What's up? Let's start a conversation. I've never heard that sighing. And man, that's, so put that on your notepad, folks. There's a prime tool to use to be fierce, looking for that early recognition of a mental health decline in somebody who's struggling. I've never heard that before, that they sigh. Huh.
Not interesting. I don't know the biology behind it, but it seems true. Once you learn that it's a thing, when I do divorce groups, I see it with people. I can tell which people are grieving and which people are in the anger stage.
Yeah, I find your work and you're amazing, and the work you put in do this. I find your work absolutely amazing. I'm proud of my daughter. She's going to be able in the next 4 years to really throw some things my way and diagnose her own father and herself. But the work that you have to do and that she has in front of her to do, it's no joke. And the stuff that you take home with you. So I applaud folks like you and Life Change Institute and Meridian Psychotherapy and what my daughter's getting into. Man, it's a heavy thing, but it's so needed. And tonight has been spot on perfect. And I don't think you or me, anyone could have covered any better. This has been good.
Good.
Really.
Good. Can I add one more thing?
You can add things until you have to go.
Okay. I'm doing great on time. So
Perfect.
one really hard on people. So this goes for the holidays, but this is also something I see with people that have lost a job or they retire, is when we get out of routines and we don't have something that keeps us going, that keeps us getting out of the house, boy, oh boy, can that lead to depression. So when I was talking about holidays and all of a sudden we have 5 days off, and it might sound great at the beginning and we're so excited, pumped to get there. Oh, we need a little bit of routine. It really just helps us, and it takes our mind off of things instead of sitting for 5 days and thinking about the stuff that's going wrong in our lives. It really messes with people. Me and
Yeah.
so try to keep as much routine as you can. It's just really important. You know, anything, if you're not working, to get out and volunteer. Something that kept me going when I was going through grief times was parenting. Just knowing I had to get up and make sure that they were okay, right? That kept me going and gave me purpose. We need something to keep us going. Otherwise, life can start feeling pretty hopeless.
Yeah, you're just absolutely nailing it. I mean, just Carly going off to college got me off my routine, like
Yeah.
you believe. And anyway, we're not going to circle back to that, but I love that. I'm a big routine guy, and I teach and I coach folks about a morning routine, but you got to have a strong evening routine as well.
Yes.
Routine, yeah, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
So good, so good.
And something to make sure everybody has in their evening routine. Well, you could do it evening or morning, but especially if you're struggling with depression or negative thinking, try to bring in gratitude. And sometimes it's hard, but just, I'm alive. I made it one more day. I'm here, right? So just to bring that in and try to force yourself to be unique in what you're listing for gratitude every single day. What is it today? I had a bed to sleep in. You know, I have heat. I have, you know, I'm healthy. Whatever it is, try to find something. The more you can find and the more days you do it, the better it helps your thinking.
Yeah, that yeah, it makes me speechless because I practice that a lot, and it really helps big time. I mean, there are things that I do, like I'll and people may do this. I'll throw a card for my mail person in the mailbox this Christmas and give them a little card, and this out of the blue stuff too in the summertime. But gratitude has been one thing that has always kind of helped me. And a lot of times you just do things and nobody knows who it's from. That's powerful as well. And that's such good stuff tonight. I'm taking.
Like one other thing, I think just, especially with grief, just remember it gets better over time. And so it's really hard when you're going through stuff, and especially with those first, you know, the first holiday, the second holiday, when we first have to encounter something after we go through something really traumatic or grief related, it feels like that's going to be our forever. And so it's really hard to see in that it's going to get better. It's going to lessen over time. You can do things to make it go a little bit faster. Reach out. Don't do it alone. It can be really isolating, but really just reach out. There are a lot of people that care, good people, you know, reach out to us.
Yeah, I tell folks all the time when everyone always asks me, you know, at the end of a podcast or something, you have anything final to say? I'm always like, yeah, if you're struggling, give somebody a chance to help you. Give somebody a chance to hear you and listen to you. Maybe you haven't felt heard or seen in a very long time, and give them a chance. They don't they don't have to wear turnout pants. They don't have to be a counselor. They don't have to be a construction worker or a librarian. They don't have to be a school. They are just a human being, and
Right.
human beings, we grieve and we suffer, and we all do. So I love that you said that. You know, give somebody a chance before you make some kind of. You know, I was doing something today, and I just saw that the CDC released the 2022 suicides, and we broke a record, 49,000 plus, and I can tell you, it's more than that, because that's just the ones that they can tell you what happened.
Yeah.
That this doesn't include the person that goes diving and has a catastrophic mask failure, or someone who goes off of a cliff and takes their life without wanting to leave a note behind, or that they want their family to receive benefits. 49,000 is a low number. It's a terrible number. It's astonishing to me that we've got 49,000 plus suicides in 2022, but it's even higher than that. So nights like this, an inner circle like this, people talking to each other, following each other, sharing things. This is all we have. You know, if you wake up in the morning and the first thing you do is you put your phone in your hand and you watch CNN or Fox or whatever you watch, you're going to get pissed off from the get-go. You know, your intake is so important. The health acronym I teach, that ACE, that health. It's not just about eating a healthy apple. What are you watching? What are you listening to? Do you have toxic ass people in your life? You know, health. So, man, it's just a great. Everyone's talking about this stuff more and more and more, and we can't talk about it enough. When that number didn't surprise me, but I thought to myself, unbelievable! 49,000 people, 49,000 families, 49,000 broken hearts, 49,000 people who are sitting right now confused. It's just generational hurt. Yeah.
Yeah. Terrible numbers, and just know that there's so many people out there that care. So, and one thing I'm just going to add that's not necessarily related to the three topics, but counseling is hard. It's hard, and I think a lot of us were raised in ways where we see going to counseling or asking for help in some way as it means that we're weak or something. And I was raised that way, and similarly a little bit. And so it was even hard for me to reach out for counseling. And once you find the right person, though, you know, make sure it's the right fit. But once you find the right person, that's a place where this person supports you, they're objective, they have your back, and they're encouraging you to be the best you can. And you don't feel like you're putting this on other people. It's like, this is why I'm here, and this is why this person is here for me. And so I care deeply about all the people that I work with, and as do you, right? We are all here for all of you. So please just don't do it alone.
Yeah, I think I was kind of raised like you. My mom and dad are still alive. I love them very much, but I could not have imagined asking to go see a counselor growing up. Now, I didn't have a rough childhood. My dad was very strict, and we walked on eggshells a lot, and that's a form of. And then I inherited some of that stuff, you know, making people walk on eggshells. Am I angry today? Things like that, you know. So I couldn't have imagined asking for a counselor. I didn't grow up with that. In my first 10, 12 years in the fire department, you weren't going to, as we know, you definitely weren't going to catch me asking to go talk to a counselor. So, yeah, that's why I keep saying I feel as a first responder that part of our physicals that we're blessed to get, we should also have to go sit with a counselor for about 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And talk, you don't talk, but I guarantee you, you may look at Jen and say, I don't know, just a little bit irritable today. And then Jen's going to sink those teeth in, and you're going to start getting, I'm serious, get something out of you, man. Yeah. And ladies and gentlemen, just, you're going to open up, and you may even have that ultimate breakthrough that you need with a professional. Because yes, talking to people is great, but sometimes talking to Jim and John in the garage just ain't enough. And people get mad at me for that. Well, I talked to my brothers on a fire pit drinking bourbon and smoking cigars. It ain't a fucking enough sometimes. It ain't enough. You got to get in front of somebody who knows what they're doing. You
Yeah.
know, I'm going to end on this real quick. You know, I was a big person that was against a person like you. I'm not going to sit and talk to Jen because Jen hasn't wore the turnout gear. She doesn't get me. It finally hit me that she's not a firefighter. She went to school to understand the brain, understand the frontal lobe, understand what our brain is doing and why it reacts like it reacts. You want this person in your life. You want them to help you. You know, no, maybe they haven't been to an overturned vehicle or a fire or whatever it might be. They didn't go to school for 6, 7, 8 years for that. You know, they went to understand your brain and to give you some coping mechanisms and some hope and some skills to go on one more day. And that's when that shift in me happened. It's like, you know, I kept waiting for that. What am I do? Waiting for the chief to be a therapist all of a sudden? That's never going to happen. You know,
Yeah. Right.
You got to come see people who do this for a living, who have experience not only in their job, but you have experience at what I call outside the yellow tape. You've been through relationship problems. You've raised children by yourself. You went back to school by yourself. I mean, you walked inside the yellow tape and outside. And if I get anything out to the people watching this, it's just don't just think because the counselor doesn't do what you do that they can't relate.
Right.
They went to school for a different reason, and it was to understand the brain. And that's all I'm going to say on that, because once I finally realized that and I embraced that, it was a game changer for me.
Right. And the way I see my job, Kenny, is my job is to and you or the person sitting in my chair. And so I'm not some stuffy person that's sitting here. It's like I'm cool. I'm a real person just like everybody else. I cuss, I have bad days, right? And so I make people, it's like whoever it is, I'm like, well, tell me what that's like. I want to know what it's like to be a firefighter. Help me understand it, right? And sometimes it's helpful to explain what something's like to somebody different. It kind of helps you see it in a different way. And somebody commented the helpers need helpers too. 1,000%. Everybody doing something to hold the pain, the traumas of everybody else. Yes, yes, yes. It's a lot to hold. It's really hard not to go to burnout.
Yes. Well, I love this.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for being here. I think we should do this again. But the cool thing is, I've never met you in person yet, but you signed up for Jason Redman's Overcome and Survive workshop. So I'll be seeing you in April and training with you and throwing punches at you. So
might practice a bit.
No, I don't. It is completely the Overcome and Survive workshop. Is we meet people where they are, but my whole point is I can't wait to meet you there. It's going to be fun. But thank you so much for coming on tonight.
Thank you, Kenny. I appreciate it so much. And the work that you're doing with Operation Yellow Tape is just amazing and so needed, so overdue. And so whoever you are, whatever you have going on, whatever your work is, you know, people are here to help. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thanks everybody for joining.
Yeah, you're welcome. And again, I know you're a busy woman. Thank you very much. Enjoy your evening. Again, I'm going to post this. I'm going to make you a collaborator.
Okay, I'll watch for it.
So what you'll get is a message on your page that says accept. And once you accept, it's going to go on your page on Instagram. So all those folks that are still watching, if you have some questions later, throw those questions out there. Jen will answer them. I will try to answer them. But again, I hope this has helped everybody. I'm going to have her sign off in a minute because she has somewhere to go. But again, I'm not going to say it again. But thank you so much for coming on tonight. A big part of Operation Yellow Tape's mission is to provide quality resources. And I want to start doing this with some people about once a month. Tonight, we covered educate and launch. If something is happening, if you feel that change in your body, launch yourself into the direction of a counselor, of a dietitian, of a personal trainer. Do you got to lose some weight, gain some weight? You need to see it there. Do something. You know, you just can't sit there and spin and get worse and worse and worse, because that's what happens, because I lived it. So again, I will be talking to you, of course. I did get your thing in LinkedIn. Very interesting. And enjoy your night and continue to practice those punches because April's coming.
I'll do that.
All right. Good night.
Thanks, Kenny.
Welcome.
Okay. Bye.
Man. Woo! That was good. I can tell you that right now. Thank you, folks, for hanging on for the whole entire time. That was what we need. We need people like you who are watching these lives, and we're actually, I love having fun and I love getting down and doing some funny stuff. But tonight was about, to me, tonight was the Operation Yellow Tape mission. We provide quality resources, education, inspirational speaking, just community, just power, just love, support. This to me oozed what Operation Yellow Tape is about, because you are OIT. And man, I took some notes too, man. Like, I've never heard the one about sighing, and I've heard some people sighing a lot lately, so remember that one. And again, I'm going to post this on my feed here in a little bit. Please go back and drop those questions for Jen and for myself, and we'll answer them the best we can, the best she can. She's the professional, not me, because I know I missed a whole lot of comments the way this page is up today. But does anybody got anything for me now that I can see before I go? I want to thank y'all for joining. I want to tell you to have an amazing Thursday evening, or wherever you might be, evening. Some people are in Australia. It's Friday already. Have a great weekend, and thanks for coming on tonight. I'll give it about 2 minutes. Does anybody have any questions for me? As always, for some of my new folks on, you can give me a follow at Kenny Mitchell Fire. You're already on here. You can go into my bio and my links, my website, kennymitchelljr.com. Check me out. If you're interested in having somebody come out and speak to your organization, your company, giving some resources, the HELP acronym, let's connect. So we can't talk about this enough. We can't talk about it enough. I just got finished a few weeks ago speaking at a business. They're not first responders, but let me tell you what, all the questions they asked me at the end of the Q&A were straight up first responders feel. That's why I love part of this mission, this movement, this now culture that we are creating. We're not just dealing with first responders. We're dealing with all of us. This is an all of us issue sometimes. The holidays being tough, missing people, job decisions to make, loneliness. Loneliness is real, man. Loneliness is real. I felt it. People may look at my Instagram page and think I'm, oh man, look. No, dude. I wake up sometimes and my days are hard. I wake up sometimes looking for the fight. We all do. And I'm from the outside looking in, you may see these fancy pictures and all behind me and stuff, but my days get tough. I try not to say no bad days, because I work for Jay Redmond, and that mindset, that choice, that lifestyle. But just like you, I wake up sometimes with triggers and with remembering things. And I think a lot of times people look from the outside in at me and think, oh man, everything is just so swell in his life. It must be easy to be him. Just like, no, we're all in this together. And this is how we get better. We talk, we communicate. If nobody has anything for me, again, tonight was everything I wanted it to be. Jen just hammered it. And yeah, I'll give it one more minute. I'm going to sign off. Rob, thank you for joining, my brother. Patsy, thank you. We got SEAL Team UK in the house. I've missed so many. Jen, Wildest Life in the house. The Unstable Table. Powerful, much needed conversation. Thank you very much. Let's normalize. Yeah, let's normalize it. Yes. Susie Bird, so many folks I've missed. Lock them up. Lock them up's in the house. I'm thankful for the therapy. Yes, I am thankful too. And I hope everyone got something out of this. Rick Huber, what's up, my brother? Talking to each other, following each other. My daughter. My goodness, to be shadow banned, I had about 15 people watching, but that's okay, because when I post this MFR, about 900 people will get a chance to learn, listen, gain some knowledge, and know that tomorrow's coming. So shadow ban me all you want. You can't stop me. What am I missing? Is that it? I don't like missing people. I don't like not seeing what they say. Everybody's joined. Yep, helpers. And my daughter is, we roll into the dining hall for dinner. Love you, Daddy-O. She's going to eat. She left her own dad's live to go eat dinner. Love that girl. I miss her. Coach Lynn in the house. What's up? Yeah, and then my comments stopped. So Folks, this has been amazing. This has been an hour and 6 minutes long. And you know me, I can make it go 5 hours and 6 minutes because I like talking about this kind of stuff. Hope you got something out of it. I can't do this without you. People can't get help without you. I'm about to drop episode 5 here real soon. It's been a tough one. If you don't listen to my podcast, the Operation Elevate podcast, it's out now. Episode 5 is heavy. It's needed. It's heavy. I had to share a few things that stopped me in my tracks. I read from the journal again a little bit. And episode 5 is going to be dropping, and it's going to do what it's meant to do, make you realize that you too can keep moving. You too can continue to go through difficult days, and the light will come back out. So thank you all so much for staying on board. Again, one final time, I'm going to drop this on my IG page. I am going to make Jen a collaborator. So please ask your questions. Please ask the questions on the feed when it comes up, and Jen and I will answer them as we come. Share this thing, please. Share it. Drop it in your IG reel, however you want to share. I think tonight was powerful. I think tonight we all learned a little bit of something we didn't know. And let's share this thing. So again, I love y'all. I can't do this without you. Keep walking with me. Have a great weekend.